Hey, everybody, and welcome to the live streams. Hopefully, everything's working technologically good with me today. I had a bunch of meetings before this, so I was like, crap, I hope my microphone doesn't, die or whatever, or my camera. So we're holding out hope that everything works good for today. So if this is your first time here, welcome to the Writing Sprints and live Q&A, where you get to ask me questions about your book and we get to write together. So today I'm working on a proposal for one of my publishers for a romantic suspense. And I'm pretty excited. I always love starting something new because somebody asked me today, like, what's my favorite book? And it's the brand new baby. I always like the new baby the best because aren't new babies cute, right? Like before you've gotten deep into the book, when it's new and shiny and all the characters are cooperating, it's super fun. And then it gets to the middle and it gets really frustrating sometimes. So good to see Gayla and Jenny and Cheryl and Silverali here. And I hope I didn't miss anybody. Heather and Ingrid, nice to see you all here. Scrolling back to see if I missed anybody. Hopefully I did not. Welcome, and I'm so glad to see you guys all here today and joining me. And you're also the first to find out, although I just put up the link today, that we're going to have a special live every 2 weeks where we're going to do on Mondays at 3 p.m. You get to submit a portion of your work in progress, and I will give you feedback on it on the live stream. This is something that a lot of channels do for YouTube channels. Like they go in and they analyze the channel and they say, you could be doing this better, you could be doing that better. And I thought, wouldn't that work great for writers, especially if you just need help with, say, your plot or your back cover blurb or just a paragraph, or you're just really trying to learn that next skill in the writing. And that's what we're going to be doing live on Mondays at 3 p.m. every other week. I can't quite add every week to my schedule yet, but maybe after the holidays, things will slow down a little bit and I'll be able to. So this is going to be a brand new thing. You will have to fill out a Google form so that I have your what you want to have analyzed. So I'm going to give you guys the link. You're the first people to get the link today, where you just put something in there and not just something, but what you want feedback on in there. And I'll pick randomly from there, assuming I have more than I could go through in an hour. So we'll pick a few people and we'll go through it. And it's sort of like what I do for the masterminds, but you're limited to a couple hundred words. And everybody asks me, why so short? Anybody who's on here who has taken a class with me before knows that I limit you to a couple hundred words because every single word in your book counts. And when you learn to write tight, you learn to write with intention. And so that's what I'm going to try to teach you guys in these live feedback sessions, that you can write tighter and better. And the earlier you get it in, the more time, of course, I have to look at it. And that makes it a lot easier for me to give you that feedback rather than like on the fly. I don't write as well like verbally or on the fly as I do when I have like at least a second to think about it. So if you want to be considered for that first live stream, the link is in the chat. And I would love to, dynamic link not found, Heather said. Oh, crap. Okay, I will look for it during our first thing. It should work. Oh, you know why? Because my it's not because of you, it's because my text when I posted it into here ran into itself. So like when you post it in, copy and paste it into a thing. Let's see if this will work where the text is separate. So yeah, that should work now. Oh no, it's not. Look, it's still doing it together. Oh my God, I hate technology. This is why my husband is the techie guy and I am not. I was trying to get the information across and the link. So here, just the link. So that should work for you guys. If you just click on just that Google form link, you should be able to submit up to 200 words. And a little blurb about your book would be super helpful. So I know what genre you're writing, because what you're writing for young adult is not necessarily what you're writing for romantic suspense. So definitely a little blurb in there. So if you have an error message with that, Heather, just let me know. We also always have a writing prompt during the writing sprints in case you haven't kind of come prepared with anything. You've got something you can try. And so today's is about adding emotion to your book, because that's part of what I've been talking about in my videos recently, is adding emotion. And I want you to add something that with details that only your character would notice. And then I thought, well, you guys probably need an example of what I'm talking about with that. So this is a scene that I've used before in the video where I talked about hope and despair in a scene. I think it might be part of the two-part scene series that I released. Um, this is from The Watchers, and this is one of the girls that is in the house that is being watched by the Watchers. It's a horror novel, and it's a really creepy movie if you haven't seen it. If you like creepy movies, it's really good. What she is noticing is that things are different. She's noticing the darkness, the silence, the feeling of falling, the air feels different. Her toes are touching the floor. She's realizing that something has changed. And so she is noticing that because she wants out of this place that she's at, which is she's calling the coop. She is noticing these details because it's important to her ability to escape. And so noticing that makes sense for this character, a character who's just shown up in the place and doesn't have this overwhelming need to escape because she doesn't know what she's there for, would not notice it. The same as somebody who has been there a little while, knows what those creatures are out in the woods, and knows that something different can really make a big difference. So that's what I mean by adding a scene with a little bit more details that only your character would notice to increase the emotion. And Kirsten asked, isn't this telling? So it's a little bit telling, but it's mostly showing deafening silence, the warm air, the black nothingness. So pinching flesh, soundless abyss. Yes, there's some telling in there with the was is. And does she have a adverb? I don't think I see an adverb in there. The air below was different. It was warm. Could AM Shine have done it stronger without any versions of was? Absolutely. But it's very, very powerful either way. And it frankly is what I had ready that I could grab because I was like 5 minutes before I went on the live. I was like, oh, I should probably have an example of this. But it's showing that you can put both together, right? Hugging her body, squeezing her arms, pinching her flesh, something you do when you're trying to make sure something is real and alive. And the soundless abyss, I love the picture of that, all of that kind of stuff. You can combine showing and telling in the same paragraph without a doubt, especially if you want to kind of move things along. She could have done it for sure, like I said, without telling. She could have called a disorienting sensation, made the silence more deafening or something like that to make it more showing rather than telling. But I still think you get a pretty good image here on this. So what I want you guys to do on your writing prompt, if you don't have anything to write about today, is to add some details that only your character would notice. Like a male character is not necessarily, and this is just like a stereotype, but not necessarily is a male character going to notice or know what kind of flowers are on the table or care. Now, if he works in landscaping, he will definitely know and care. But if he's a carpenter or a plumber, the chances of him noticing and caring about the flowers on the table are very slim. Just as like a female character who works as a professor will not be as interested in the baking stuff that's on the counter unless she bakes in her spare time. So you want to think about what would my character, with their background, with their focus, with what they would potentially notice, look at that and see what they would notice and add more details that they would notice, not necessarily somebody else, not necessarily the details you would notice, because this is from the character's point of view. So you've got to think about what kind of person is this? What kind of job do they have? What kind of background do they have? What kind of thoughts do they have? What are they anxious about? What are they afraid of? What would they notice? And yes, Kirsten, the darkness fell, suffocating, heavy, and hairs on her arms stood up. All of those are great details that you can add to make it more showing. I would love you guys to do 100% showing, but if you don't, that's totally cool because the whole book does not have to be showing. You don't want the whole book to be showing because then it gets to be too overwhelming for the reader. Telling is good for moving the action along when you have a moment where there's not a lot that you need to get across emotionally. Telling is good to kind of give the reader a break because showing is all about engaging their emotion. And for really emotional or important moments in your book, you definitely want to show. So depending on your scene. All right, so what we do here is we do 15-minute sprints, and then we come back and we chit-chat about our writing, whatever questions you have or whatever problems you are having with your writing. Just drop them in the chat and I will answer them when we come back. So I'll put the prompt up again, and I'm going to play some music, and I will see you guys in 15 minutes. That's always a quick amount of time. So, because Kirsten was asking about the showing, not telling, I pulled some other examples to show you guys. Hopefully, you all had some great writing. I had written some stuff on my phone last night, which I was just about like asleep when I wrote it, and so it's all like spelled wrong and everything. Jenny said, my character feels flat. She's lived her whole life in the king's castle and has been bullied there, but the setup just feels like rich girl's problems and she's not likable or relatable. Then I think you need to give her some deep emotional wounds, which I talk about in the character videos a lot. I talk about deep emotional wounds often. We have all had traumas in our background, and bullying, yes, is one trauma, but what makes her susceptible to bullying, or what makes her the kind of kid that people do bully? You can give her a more multidimensional characteristic so that she comes across as likable, and then the reader feels bad that she is being bullied, or like really wants to beat up the bullies themselves in their heads, you know. So you really want to look at what is in her past besides this that makes her so relatable. If you think about, like, I talk about Pretty Woman in my Writing the Romance course that I'm working on developing. And Vivian, normally, none of us would have sympathy for a prostitute because, you know, she's working on the streets and those are the people the police throw in jail and everything. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with doing that as a job. I'm just saying that normally that would be like the reaction. There wouldn't be a lot of sympathy. However, because of her past, and you hear about how her mother locked her in the attic when she was a kid, and she would picture a white knight coming to rescue her, you know, brandishing his sword to save her from this abusive mother, you feel a lot of sympathy for her, and you really feel like, wow, I want to see her get that happy ending that she clearly deserves so much. And then Edward, who is also a billionaire, when he talks about his dad, which he doesn't get deeply into his deep emotional wound there, but when he talks about his dad and he talks about how hard it was for him to even say that he was angry with his father, you feel a lot of sympathy for him, and you want to see this poor guy, who is actually a little hurt boy underneath it all, be loved and accepted as he is. So those little peeks into the character and into their history and into what makes them three-dimensional is what makes them likable. Let me also pull up some other examples, because I downloaded a couple of others from previous things that I've talked about on writing, on the book for the writing prompt. I just got to figure out which ones I just downloaded. Okay. Oh, it's only let me pull up one at a time. That's a pain in the neck. Okay, so first I'll try this one, and I'll show you guys. This is from another video. I forget which one. I think it was one of the scene ones. This is about a character noticing things in her setting. So she has gone to her ex-husband's house. Her ex-husband was very abusive, and when she sees the pool, she does not see the pool as a place to like get cooled off and it's hot and all of that. She sees the pool completely different than somebody that had not been abused by their husband would see it, because of the history that she has with it. So instead of seeing this beautiful water and this place where she wants to swim and all of that, she remembers what it was like to not be able to breathe, and how her lungs almost exploded, and then how he like just let her bob to the tap, and then he bob to the top, and then he gets out of the pool. So she sees a pool completely different from how somebody else would see a pool, because of the past that she has. And then I was going to show you one from a romance novel, because some of you guys are writing romance, and this was in this is the same book that I did in the masterclass on scenes. I don't remember what video I used this one in, but this is from that same book, From There to Back Again. And this is when she meets the hero, the love interest next door. And the things that she notices about him are the things that she would be attracted to, right? Like some girls might see the stubble on his chin and be like, ew, guy needs to shave, if they're not attracted to that. She clearly is, because she notices this. She notices the sunglasses that keep her from seeing his eyes. She notices what he's wearing, and that it all kind of together makes him very sexy and devastating. So the things that she notices are all about what she is attracted to with him. There's some mystery with him behind those sunglasses. She doesn't really know what he's hiding there. The reader knows, but she doesn't know yet. And but it still kind of makes her like, wow, he's hot. So you want the reader to think he's hot just as much as she thinks he's hot. So the way that your character sees and describes other things, the way that you put the emotion in there, the way that you put the conflict in there, it's all very important to keeping that book moving along at a nice little pace. So, and I'm glad, Jenny, that you got an idea from that. And good job, Silverali, on the 158 words. I was just kind of putting in these mistyped words, because when it's late at night, I'm trying to type on my phone. And I'm actually like a one-finger typer. So it takes me a while, and it's almost always like a mess. And so I've got all these misspelled words, and I'm trying to put them in there and try to figure out what I was thinking at 11:30 at night when I sent myself the email with the little snippet that I was writing. So that's what I was doing. And Miss Blogger, that's a great question, because I was going to tell everybody what the next video is on my channel. So next week, I have a video about 2 of my books that were banned. And I was like, I realized which 2 it was and why they were banned. And I really wanted to tell you guys that story about why my books were banned and why that's important for you guys as writers. So the next video on Monday is about books of mine that were banned and why they were banned and why I'm so stinking proud that my books were banned. So no matter where you fall politically in anything, because I don't get political in the video, I don't get political on my channel, the thing that I want everybody to know is that you've got to write what's important to you. So that's what the next video is about. I do not know what Thursday's video is going to be about, because I haven't decided yet. I've got a couple to edit. I've got a couple to record. But Monday we are going to have that live stream. that I mentioned before, where you can fill out the Google form and you can get your work analyzed. So the first live manuscript feedback is September 16th at 3 p.m. I'm going to put that little thing in there, and it's a live. So you can go over to the channel and you can click notify me so that you remember that it's coming up. Sometimes I have to do that because I get so busy with my day that I'll forget that there's a video that I want to watch. So feel free to click notify me on there so that you know. And if you want to submit something for that, then fill out this form here. And again, it's only 200 words because I really want you guys to keep it really short and make every word count in your book. Every single word needs to move things along. And Kirsten shared a little snippet there. I do like that. Shreds me like I'm last week's mail. I love that. Danny squeezes his eyes closed. He knows, but of course it doesn't matter to her. I'm the other woman. And that's a great little hook that you've got there at the end of that. So great little thing. Okay, so if you guys have any other questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. Otherwise, we'll do another little sprint, 15 minutes again, and you're free to try the prompt again if you guys want. And I will see you in 15 minutes. Another 15 minutes gone pretty quick. I see you guys were busy in the chat while I was gone writing. Okay, let me go back and see the other stuff. This blogger, how does the prologue hook the reader? Every word in the beginning of your book needs to hook the reader. It needs to be short. It needs to be snappy. I have several videos about prologues on the channel. You can just go in and type prologue in the search bar on my channel, and you'll see how the prologue hooks them. They have to be snappy and short and give information that either happens much earlier or much later in the book. A prologue isn't really a prologue if it's something that comes right before the main action of the book. And Corby, yes, not every book needs a prologue, and some have them, some don't. It depends on the genre. It depends on how long your book is. It depends on what you absolutely have to set up for. I'd say 95% of my romances never had a prologue. I don't know if I did that in my women's fiction. I'm pretty sure I did it in my horror young adult, and I definitely do them in my romantic suspense and suspense novels, because there I really want to hook the reader on the mystery. So there's a little bit something different that I'm trying to set up there. And Cora, I don't even call it a prologue. It's titled in the beginning instead. And yes, I kind of like when that's done a little bit differently. I think Ruth Ware had one where she was like, then and now. And I was just reading one that goes back and forth between past and present. And I really like that. And I like the marble there with the gemstone and the jewel to behold. Awesome. And how much of the backstory should be included in the prologue? Not a lot. You don't want a lot of backstory, period, because it slows down your action. There is zero hard and fast rules in writing. Absolutely zero. You've got to learn to trust your gut. And the only way you can learn to trust your gut is to read a lot and write a lot. You can't do that without learning those gut instincts. Backstory should be triggered, because people don't just randomly run around thinking about stuff. You don't randomly think about, going to church with your grandma on Sundays when you were 5 in your present day-to-day life, unless maybe you pass by the church that you went to with your grandma on Sundays. Things are triggered. Most of our memories come up because we see something, smell something, hear something that reminds us of them. So you definitely want to have it be triggered if you're going to put it in there. The whole goal of a prologue, though, is to be short, snappy, intrigue the reader, and get right into the action, because you just don't have a lot of time. Even if you have an ordinary world set up in your book, which is where the character is in their day-to-day life, it shouldn't last that long, because the reader, it has Netflix and HBO and Prime all vying for their attention, and TikTok, which is every 8 seconds, something's changing. So you do not have a lot of time. You've really got to grab the reader right away. And Jenny, yeah, I don't like to read the backstory either, because what it does is it assumes that the reader cares about the character already, and they don't, because they don't know them. If you think about meeting somebody new, like my friend and I were in a run club, and we met somebody today that had just moved to the area, and she's like, oh, I don't have any friends here. I really want to make some friends. And so we started to invite her to something. And then she talked for, I'm not kidding you, like 15 minutes straight about her past. And I was like, oh my God, I have too much information. Like, it's too much for me to absorb. I don't know her well enough yet to care about that information. But if I got to know her and we hung out and we did some things, then that would change. Then I would probably care. It would be a lot cooler if she was sitting there and said, you know, I left Virginia and I'm not going to tell you why. And I'd be like, hey, why'd you leave Virginia? I'd really want to know. And so I would definitely be inviting her to hang out rather than telling me, you know, I left Virginia and I drove 26 hours and I set up in an apartment and then I bought a dog and I bought a couch here at this furniture store. Like, I don't care. But if you intrigue me, I'm going to care and come back for more. And nice to see you, Gayla. Sorry, I missed you probably left a long time ago. Corby, yes, you can introduce backstory via dialogue if it is triggered, if it makes sense for the characters to talk about it. You don't want to have that soap opera dump. Remember when your father's brother was married to your mother, like that kind of soap opera dump where they tell everything and you're like, come on, people would never have this conversation in real life. So that's really look at what is the motivation for the characters to talk about it now. Jenny, how do you curl lips? Well, I guess like people do, like especially when they're like growling or mad about that. With the curling eye and Corby, that's hilarious. Don't usually like sneer. Is that what I mean? Shirley curls her lips in her cute. Oh, Kirsten, are you talking about the excerpt that you posted in there? If that's what I mean. Yes, I think that can work, the excerpt that you had there, because it definitely tells a lot. It doesn't tell a lot. It paints a little bit of a picture for the reader. And so probably excellent, 120 words and detailed and full of emotion. And yes, emotion is so important for your characters and so important for your reader because it's what connects the reader and makes the reader care. Yes, you absolutely have to think about, Jenny, whether the reader cares right now, and they really don't. The more you can kind of leave it a mystery, the more the reader is going to be intrigued and want to continue to move the story forward. And Miss Blogger, you've got to study and write it. I mean, there is no, like I said, no hard and fast rules. The only way you learn to write is to actually write it. So you have to sit down and write it and read really good banter. Read banter that you like. Watch it on TV and write the dialogue, or see if you can Google and get the screenplay. Sometimes some screenplays are shared on the internet. Really study it, how people talk. And I love to read my dialogue out loud. When I write it out loud. I speak it as I write it because I want to hear if it sounds like a natural cadence, if it sounds like that character, the way they would speak. Because the way men speak and the way women speak and the way children speak and elderly people speak is all different. So you really want to look at, is this what this character would say right now? Does it make sense? Is it in keeping with their character and the type of person that they are? And is it moving everything forward? Because you also don't want to have banter that's just there for banter's sake. It should be moving the plot forward. So you've got to study really good books. Don't study so-so books. Don't study crappy books. Study really good books. If you read a crappy book that you put down and you don't finish, or a book that's so-so, you don't really care about it, the only thing I want you to analyze is why you didn't care or why you didn't finish it. And I'm not necessarily saying that all those books that you don't finish are crappy. It means that it wasn't intriguing to you. But you need to know what you don't like to read as much as you know what you do like to read. If you're saying, you know what, I just didn't care about this character in the beginning, and that's why I didn't finish the book, then that's a valid reason. I have a book that was started out really, really good, and it was really tight and well written, but then it had so much backstory that I just stopped caring. Like I was flipping pages trying to get back to the action. And this was by a pretty well-known mid-list author who had rave reviews, and the book had rave reviews on Amazon. But I was like, yeah, I can't deal with all this backstory because I did not care about the characters yet. And for me, it pulls me out of the story because I'm looking at the action in the scene and I'm like, okay, it does not make sense that he would stand here and be thinking for 4 pages while he's in the middle of a conversation. So you've got to look at all of that stuff. And Ingrid, yes, the dialogue in Pulp Fiction is really good. There's a lot of movies out there that have such spectacular dialogue that I'm always admiring how good that is. And Kirsten, writing banter and dialogue by watching YouTube snippets of classic and popular movies, that's a great idea. When you really want to write something well, a genre well, whether it's comedy or romance or drama, study ones that have been done well. Now, one thing you will find, and I talked about this in one of my dialogue videos, is that a lot of times in movies, they drop backstory into the dialogue that the character in a book would already know, because they would have known that internally, or you would have set it up as the author. So just be careful not to drop in backstory that the character would normally already know. I have an example from Legally Blonde where Elle says to Warren, she's like, well, or Warren says to Elle, he's like, well, my 5 brothers got into Harvard, or whatever it was. I forget the line. And that's sort of that soap opera dialogue that I'm talking about. She's been dating him for a year or so. She would totally already know this, so it wouldn't make sense to repeat it to her. That was just the screenwriter dropping some backstory in there so that you had that. And yes, the dialogue needs to move to carry the story. Dialogue is a plot tool. It is not just there to fill up your word count. It is not just there to help readers get to know your character. It is a plot tool. If you watch my dialogue videos, I talk about how dialogue can show, can hide, can give misinformation, can do a lot of different things. It's not just there to put conversations on between characters. So when you're writing your banter, it still needs to be moving the plot along. When you're writing your banter, it still needs to increase the tension between the characters. It still needs to increase the conflict. It still needs to raise the stakes. Everything is moving that book along. I think, Jenny, it was you that was posting on the community about, people not finishing a book because they get bored. And that happens if not every word, if there's a lot of words that aren't moving the book forward. That's why you guys are limited to a 200 word count, 200 words word count on the Google submission form, because every word matters. Even when you're writing 130,000 words, every single word matters. People are giving you something that is more valuable than anything else in the world. They are giving you their time, and you absolutely have to make it worth that while. So if you guys have not already signed up or interested or just learned about the Google forum and the live stream that we're going to have on Monday at 3 o'clock Eastern time, fill out the form, drop in 200 words, and I will give you feedback on it right then and there. It's a pretty valuable opportunity to get feedback on your book, even though it's only a tiny little snippet. You'll be surprised how much you can learn from that. And the earlier you guys submit it, the more time I have to look at it, so that then I'm not just like trying to piece it together, right there live, because that's a little bit harder for me. So I appreciate you guys all joining me for the live stream today. It's already 5 o'clock and it is the weekend. I'm super excited about that. I'll answer Jeff's question real quick before we finish up. Any special challenges between first person point of view and third person dialogue strategies? I think first person does make it hard because you can't get into the other character's head necessarily. I mean, Lucy Foley does it in the Paris Apartment in the guest list. She does multiple first person point of view. But I think that the dialogue can still work, and you still need to have that character reacting to what they just heard or said. You're just going to have the one-sided reaction, but I think it can still work. And first person is like super popular right now. And Cora, which 200 words? I have 170,000 to choose from. Pick the most important 200 words to you, the ones that you're struggling with the most. So it will teach you to really make every single word count. It seems ridiculous, but it really is true. You have to make everything move your book forward. So thank you guys for joining me. I will be here next Friday, and I will see you all on Monday. So have a great weekend, everybody, and thank you for being here.